Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist. I have degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, and a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy. In this video, I'm not seeking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hello and happy Sunday. We're in here, right? Hi, Adric. You're first. Thanks for being here, starring this comment so I can come back to it later. Hi, Nina. Thank you for being in here. Hi, Red Pill Sleeper So. What's up to you too? So today we're going to talk about surviving the narcissist. Unfortunately, several of us have been in relationships, be it parents or romantically, with people who have narcissistic tendencies, or we've actually been in a relationship with a diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. Hi, Adrian. Happy Sunday to you. Thank you for being here. Hi, Cutting Up with the Joneses. Howdy to you too. Thank you for being here. So we have a lot to get through today, unfortunately. So we may not have time for a panel, but it would be interesting to hear people's stories about trying to survive the narcissist. Hi, Snowman. Thanks for being in here. He says, I had to survive a few narcissists in my life. One of them, unfortunately, was my mother. And happy Sunday to you too. Okay. First, we have to talk about where the word came from, right? So let me share this. Okay. So we're going to talk about narcissists, just so you get a background, because sometimes that gives you a little bit of insight into the diagnosis. Okay. So again, I have my notes. I have to write things down. You know what I mean? Hi, Cynical Optimist. Peace to you. Thank you for being here. So the myth of Narcissus, myth being story, comes from three different sources. Placerius, Ovid, and Protherius. So Placerius told about it in 2 AD, Ovid told the story in 7 AD, and Protherius told the story in 50 BC. So the story's old, but the one that we generally go with is Ovid's story. So the third time's the charm, apparently. So when Narcissus was born, his mother took him to a seer, which was common practice, right? So you would take your baby to the seer to see what their future held. Okay. So when the seer predicted Narcissus' future, said that he would live a very long life if he never came to know himself, which I'm sure when you're standing there with your baby, you're like, what the hell? What is that supposed to mean, right? So as he grew up, he's so good looking that multiple people fall in love with him, but he sort of just uses people as a means to an end, right? Like he doesn't love any of those people. He sort of relies on how good looking he is to get what he wants. Okay. Hold on a second. I'm going to clear my throat real quick. Let me mute. Okay. So he's using people, running through bodies because he's so good looking. Okay. So, and once he was done with people, he literally just threw them away. He would ignore them completely. Right. So one of the gods, I don't remember which one, says that cursed him to never be loved by the one he fell in love with. So that was his curse, right? To feel what these other people had felt who fell in love with him, right? So One day, Narcissus is drinking from a pond. He sees his own reflection. He didn't know immediately that it was him. And he was so mesmerized by the beauty of the person that he saw, he fell madly in love. Well, remember the curse. He can't be loved by the one he falls in love with, so he can never love himself, right? So because he could never leave the reflection of himself, that became his entire focus. He wasted away at the edge of the pond. Now, Ovid's story says he turns into a flower. The original story says he committed suicide on the side of the pond because he was so distraught, which was similar to what one of his previous lovers had done. So, which that's what these flowers are in the background of this picture. Those are narcissus flowers. Okay, so actually, we're going to make that a bit smaller. So let's talk about, my goodness, slide, do what I tell you. Okay, so let's talk about people who, oh, was it Aphrodite? Thank you, Adrian. And hi, Nick Morrison. Thank you for being in here. Okay, so narcissism or narcissistic traits. Essentially, it's a self-centered person, right? Like can't leave their own reflection, who's preoccupied with themselves, their wants and needs, often at the expense of others. They are a user, okay? They use and discard people, right? So it was Freud that first said or first talked about the narcissist as a personality, okay? And this is why, because there are people very much like Narcissus who are solely focused on their own reflection. What do they want? What do they need? And they use and discard people. Hey, Marcus, thanks for being in here. Okay, so the narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosis, right? And so that's why I try to make a delineation between somebody with narcissistic traits or a narcissistic relationship compared to someone who actually has the DSM diagnosis. Now, as you can imagine, people with that personality disorder don't tend to seek therapy because they don't see anything wrong with how they are, right? It's this, I'm perfect. I don't need help. In my entire career, and a lot of my focus is on personality disorders. It's what a lot of my certifications are in. I've only treated 2, and it was because they came to marriage therapy. What I will tell you, just as my experience, but also talking to other people who treat personality disorders, people who are narcissists do not take offense or get defensive when they are told they are a narcissist. So that was an interesting thing to go through, to try to, easily break the news to somebody. Hey, I've scored all your testing and you have narcissistic personality disorder. And they're like, oh yeah, I kind of could see that. They're narcissistic. What are you going to do? Right. The interesting thing is that narcissists will have relationship, be it friendship, romantic, parents, whatever, with empathic or empathetic people. And one of the things that they'll do to control their behavior is to call them a narcissist. So if you've ever been called a narcissist, it should give you pause. Now, saying that, this is one of those words that is now being just thrown around. Just somebody voices their own opinion and it's like, you're a narcissist. And, that drives me nuts. It gets thrown around and that's not what it is. But if, you've been in relationship with someone that you think has narcissistic tendencies and they call you a narcissist, maybe for stating a boundary, requesting something, calling them on their behavior, whatever, you're probably right that they do have narcissistic tendencies. So narcissistic personality disorder, and similarly people with traits, is in something called a cluster of personality disorders. So all the personality disorders are in 3 different clusters because they have similar symptoms. Now, with narcissism, it's in with histrionic, borderline, and antisocial. So a histrionic personality disorder is someone who is overly emotionally reactive. Okay. Think hysterical, histrionic. Okay. Everything is the end of the world. Um, Everything is terrible. Or conversely, everything is the most perfect, right? Like they are just extraordinarily emotionally reactive, cannot control their emotional reactions. Borderline has more to do with bonding and attachment. People who are borderline um, tend to have this urge to push people away, but then when people get too far, they pull them back in, and it's this tug of war. And then antisocial. These are people who do not have a conscience. So, the small, still little voice that tells you right from wrong. Put it in the comments if you know who I just quoted. um, oh yeah, Marcus says, Marcus, you're a narcissist. Yeah, right. Adrian says it's super weaponized. Marcus says you toxic. Next Sunday, tune in next Sunday because next Sunday I'm talking about the weaponized terms, low vibrational and toxic. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, Marcus knows histrionic. Hi, Leon. Thanks for being here. Adrix says tug of war sounds like a roller coaster, right? And it's unpleasant for the person who's borderline as well. Just like people who are histrionic, it's very unpleasant for them to be so emotionally reactive. Now, with narcissism and antisocial, they don't tend to care that they have a diagnosis. So that there's some differences. Okay. All right. So some associated features, meaning, okay, so in the DSM, it'll have something called diagnostic and associated features, meaning this is kind of what it looks like, in every day. I didn't put the diagnostic criteria in there. That's pretty dry. It's more important, like, what does it look like in real life, in real time? Okay. So these people are overly boastful, right? We're not talking about basic pride or saying, hey, look at this thing I did. I like it. Isn't this neat? That's basic pride. And it's okay to have pride. We should have pride. We don't always have to be self-deprecating. Right? But overly boastful, constantly bragging, exaggerating their achievements, like they'll be nominated for something at the workplace, and by the time the story's told, they won some award for the whole state. Right? They exaggerate the detail. Acting superior, right? Which is similar to, but not exactly the same as being condescending. It's sort of like it's this air of superiority. I'm better than all this, right? It's like even in a joking way, being derogatory to the people you're around, like, you people wouldn't understand this, or I'll tell you, but you don't even know what I'm talking about. It's that air, I don't have time for this. Okay. Lack of empathy, right? For others. They have a lot of empathy for themselves. They're very very emotionally intelligent. So the narcissist was sort of at the time trauma happened. All personality disorders have a trauma component, which is sort of like the trigger, the squeezing of the trigger. They were on their way to being an empath, which actually helps the narcissist to manipulate the empath better, right? Because they know what it feels like and how it works. They're highly emotionally intelligent, right? But they only have empathy for themselves. It's sort of like if we both have the flu and we have the same flu, and at the same time with all the same symptoms, it's worse for me. So you could say, My nose won't stop running. I can't breathe. My sinuses hurt. And if I'm a narcissist, I would be like, oh, I know, but try having a headache on top of that and my throat hurts. And then if they were like, well, my throat hurts too, they'd be like, yeah, but I had my tonsils. You know what I mean? They keep, it's always worse. Whatever's good, it's better for them. Whatever's bad, it's worse for them. So they only cast themselves as a victim or a hero in every story, right? They're in any story and anything that's going on, they're either the victim and they want sympathy, so that's manipulating empathy, or they're the hero and they want the accolades. Okay. They're never the villain in a story. They never made a mistake. They never did anything wrong. And they're for sure not just a bystander who saw something. Okay. They look down on others as inferior. They monopolize conversations. So they'll interrupt people, talk over the top of people. Somebody will, say something, an astrophysicist would be like, and this is true. We recently discovered a perfect ring of stars, several billion light years away, and it's several billion miles across, which is bigger than any structure that we have seen in the known galaxy thus far. And the narcissist would be like, that's right. You are correct. Right. And the narcissist is an airplane mechanic. Right. But somehow they know literally everything. Right. Yeah. The one-upping. Yeah. Adrian says you wouldn't know what you're reading. Yeah. Yeah. That is exactly. Adrian said, oh, there's some laughing. Okay. So maybe you guys know somebody who's like this. Okay. So the one-upper, Adrian says your eye hurts. Well, my legs just popped off. Right. Right. You'd be like, man, my eye really hurts. I need to see if there's something in there. And they would be like, I had cataract surgery when I was 2. Hi, Prince Mugo. Thanks for being in here. He says, hey, the coolest show, low key on the tube. Just stopping by to say hi. Today's topic had enough of. Yep. Yep. Okay. Adrian wants me to go on. Cutting up with the Joneses. My ex-wife used to talk about how she makes up stories about strangers she sees. I didn't realize she makes up stories about everyone. Now, be careful with that because I am a people watcher and I know lots of people watchers. And sometimes some of it is analytical, right? Like it's psychoanalysis a little bit where I'm trying to figure out their story because it's fun to watch, right? And so there's a little bit of story making. Now, if somebody's making up stories about everyone she sees and she's the center of all those stories, okay, well, then you might want to watch. Keep it 100. LMAO, he's writing stuff down. Okay. All right. We talked about monopolizing conversations, right? So when they are criticized, so when you call them on something or you say, I didn't like this, or that's actually wrong, this is right, or I have a completely different opinion than you, they get impatient, angry, unhappy, depressed, mood swings. This is that histrionic part, right? So when they are criticized or called out or somebody has a differing opinion, they get emotionally reactive. Okay. Now, narcissists, not all of them are physically abusive. Okay. And not all people who are physically abusive are narcissists. However, there's a higher prevalence of narcissists to be physically abusive to children and to their partners, right? Intimate partner violence. So this is a lot of where that happens when they feel called out or criticized or wrong or anything like that. That can't be. That doesn't exist in their reality, that they're wrong about something or that someone who is halfway smart has a different opinion than them. So they will have a huge mood swing. Okay. Um, okay. Criticism. Here's the good stuff. Uh, okay, Prince Mugo says, you know what, I lied. I'm gonna stay. May see a different angle. Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect. Oh, I'm sorry, Marcus. Those are your crayons. Yes, I understand. And I know where that comes from. Okay, next one. They are easily disappointed when expected importance is not given. So this is where we say, like, if the red carpet is not rolled out for them, if they don't have like an amazing introduction, or say you have a gathering of friends, and when the narcissist walks in, if you don't go, hey everybody, this is Fred, hopefully nobody in here's name is Fred, and make everybody, make the narcissist the center of attention, or like the most honored guest, the smartest person in the room, or hey, we were just trying to figure something out. What's the answer to our question, right? Deference. If the deference is not given to them, it could be the tiniest little thing. They're very easily disappointed. If you have that same party and the narcissist walks in, and you're having a good conversation, but there's a few people that are challenging the narcissist on what they think, then the narcissist will get mad at you for inviting those people to the party who would attack them, or not protecting the narcissist, or not being on the narcissist's side, and fighting against the people who are challenging them, right? They want to be treated superior, and they want special accommodations because they are special. Okay, Adrian got the zipper on. Okay. Hi, Indigo Flow. Thanks for being in here. Oh, Leon says Fred's a great name. That's my granddaddy's name. Right, but I totally not saying Fred was a narcissist. Grandpa Fred, great guy. Okay. Next, they want, but it's more than want, like they crave the best of everything, to the point where they will change reality. So people with personality disorders change their own reality, right? And in doing so, they try to change your reality. What that means is they change how they perceive something to change how they think about it. And so they want to change how you perceive something, so you think about it differently and you see it the same way as them, because then that means they're the center of your universe. Okay. So they want the best of everything. And it's not, I want the best sound system for my podcast, so I'm going to put money aside. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to save up for it. I'm going to figure out the best ones. And I'm going to take my time and get all the stuff, right? Like, you can want the best of something, but they want to be seen as having the best of something. So I don't know what kind of microphone I have. I keep calling it a Yeti. I don't know what it is. But it would be like somebody does that and they get this great microphone, right? And then I would be on and like, what kind of microphone is that? And they would say, it's the 1-2-3 Amazathon. And I would be like, yeah, I've heard that those are terrible. And the Yeti's actually the only one that you can rely on. When maybe my microphone cost, I don't know, because it's my son's. Maybe it costs $50, right? But because I have to be seen as having the best and knowing the most about everything, so I will just make things up on the fly. Now, narcissists tend to, but not always. So this is sort of experiential amongst therapists. They will talk about this. Narcissists tend to have a bit higher IQ. So it could be, a little bit higher to being highly intelligent. And they tend to have a really good command of language, because they can switch their masks, right? Like they could be totally cool and edgy and all these kind of things. And then you see them in another scenario and they are the most straight laced, conservative, right? They're very much a chameleon, right? Because they got to be the best everywhere they go. So they change their perception in the moment. And as soon as it comes out of their mouth, they wholeheartedly believe it. And it's not just that they believe the lie, reality actually changed for them. There is no other version of that. Okay. And so they want you to think the same thing. Right. And so then they will argue to the death about the thing that they just said, because now it became real to them and they need you to see it their way. Right. Because that gives it validity. Okay. And they have a very, very, very fragile self-esteem, very fragile, easily hurt. So if you guys have ever seen the first Men in Black, and do you remember, okay, so there was the cat that had the galaxy, Orion, right? And had the galaxy around its neck. And then there was those two older guys that were sitting in the cafe and they had the cat. And then, the big dude with the big jaw gets killed and his face comes open and there's this little tiny squishy guy inside. Now, first of all, we all have our self-esteem for everybody is a little tiny squishy guy inside. But some of our squishy guys, they're pretty calloused and they can take some hits, right? Or we just don't care. Like I always say, it's none of my business what people think of me. Quit trying to tell me. But the narcissist has built such a wall around their little squishy guy self-esteem that anytime something pokes at it, they just can't have it. I mean, temper tantrums, right? Okay. Where are we at? Oh, Marcus says, Adrian, I'm an artist. Crayons are for coloring. I love that. Prince Mugo says, what if you were raised by one and you may reflect some of the residue of their behavior, but at the core, and show it's not you? Riddle me that. We're actually going to talk about that. But here's what I'll give you. Well, I don't know that we'll go deeply enough in it, so I'm going to answer that. Being raised by somebody with a personality disorder, we learn our own behavior and how we interact with the outside world from our parents. Okay. So we take on some of the behaviors of the narcissist because we believe as children that that's how the world works. Then we get out in the real world and eventually we figure out that's not how the world works and I'm actually hurting people, or it would be much better to do it this way. But we have these like some habitual behaviors or some things that we've, just really taken on. That is their behavior. So the first thing is to realize it's from being raised by somebody who had personality traits. And then the second part is to figure out what is you, what is them. Now, I also say all the time, you can't tell people no all the time, or you can't tell people what not to do all the time, but never tell them what to do, right? You create a lock. You create a stone wall if you only tell people what not to do. So once you figure out what's them and it doesn't serve you, or you need to tweak it a bit, figure out what to do instead. And then habitually start doing that and change that habited behavior. Because for someone raised by someone with a personality disorder, your empathy is probably very high. It has to be that way. That I will talk about. But these behaviors are just habits. So now it's just, it's getting out of the habit. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So fragile self-esteem. Okay. In relationships, right? I don't think that's it. Yes. So when you're in a narcissistic relationship, and this is saying that in the relationship, there is a person that while in relationship with you takes on narcissistic traits. Now, I know that's a long way to say things, because maybe this person does not have these traits in relationship to other people, or don't generally have it out in the real world. Although I will tell you, narcissistic people are extraordinarily charming and sweet. That's why it's really hard for others to believe what's happening in the home. Okay. So I want to be clear about that. But generally, it's a person with narcissistic traits, or they are a narcissist. Yeah. Cynical optimist says they think in absolutes. As long as the absolute is that in the end, they win, they're right, they're the hero or the victim. But regardless, center of the story, right? That's the absolute, that they are the center of the story. So in relationships, there's lots of denial, right? Like you could literally hear them say something, watch them do something, and they'll say it never happened. Crazy making. Lots of passive aggression, right? Doing things to sort of get under your skin, get at you, move things around, hide stuff from you. I'm going to use this example, but I'm not talking politics, guys. But I don't know if you guys saw when Trump was on some show, he was being interviewed by some ladies. It was not going well. They were pushing against him quite steadily. Anyway, when the main interviewer turned, Trump reached over to her water bottle and tightened the lid really tight and then set it back down so that when she wanted a drink, she wouldn't be able to get the lid open. That is passive aggressive. So not saying anything about whether he is or is not a narcissist or does not have narcissistic traits or anything about politics. But I'm saying that specific behavior was passive aggressive. Lots of silent treatment, right? Because if you go against the narcissist, you have to be punished. There's punishment. They cannot resolve anything until there is a punishment, because you were wrong and you made them feel bad, so you must be punished. There is no, coming to consensus or compromise or any of that. No, there is not, right? Cynical optimist give me LOL. Yeah. I don't want to talk about politics. Okay. Lots of rage. Like I said, temper tantrums, right? Physical violence happens. Devaluation. So anything they do is exaggerated. Anything you do is devalued. It's not as cool, as important. A great example of this is when, be it parent, romantic, whatever, friend, you're in relationship with someone with narcissistic traits and it's your birthday. They will invariably do something to ruin your birthday or to become the main focus of your birthday, right? They will start a fight with you. They will have a breakdown or an anxiety attack about something that happened 10 years ago. They will start a fight with people that you invited to your birthday party, or just start telling you shouldn't invite them. The food you're fixing is wrong. Or at your birthday party, they will do something to garner all the attention. They'll faint or they'll get sick, or, if people are not putting them at the center of attention. So they devalue your attention to get attention. Oh, hi, Vinny and L. Leanne says, I hate that silent treatment is on the list because women weaponize that, and it has always been a great tool that I have always used. Listen, the silent treatment is a form of passive aggressive, right? Because adults speak. Adults talk. They communicate. They have conversation. If you cannot have a conversation with somebody, then that's what you have to figure out, right? Sometimes that is labeled the silent treatment when you're like, no, every time I bring it up, I get yelled at. So I'm just not going to talk, right? But you see how that sounds like a little bit of a temper tantrum. I'm just not going to talk to them. I'm just going to stop breathing. I'm just going to stop trying. I'm just going to, that kind of thing. Used to know somebody that would say that all the time. I would point out the tiniest of things, right? I'm just going to stop breathing. Bro, stop. Okay. Projection. So anything they do wrong is actually you that does that wrong, and they've never done it wrong, ever. So this changes reality again, right? So let's use the microphone conversation, right? So then what they'll do, because they want the best of everything, is they will go buy a $3,000 microphone. And then the next time they're around, they'll be like, well, you were trying to say that the Yeti microphone was the most reliable microphone, but this one is the best one. And the person will be like, I never said that. You said that. And they'll be like, no, it was you the whole time. There could be video of it. It doesn't matter. They will say it was you the whole time, right? Projection. Playing the victim. Talked about that. Gaslighting. Gaslighting goes with changing reality, right? So they'll change reality and then they'll make you feel like you're losing your mind. It's kind of that crazy making, like, no, you're the one who was saying that about the Yeti microphone. Are you losing it? Are you okay? Does dementia run in your family? Your memory is terrible. You are like the worst. So they'll make you feel like you don't have a grasp on the truth or the real reality. Smear campaigns is a big one, right? I also call it team building. So narcissists will do preventative team building and then also reactionary team building. So what this is when they are in relationship with someone, doesn't matter what kind, they will have a team of people who they have talked to about you, even if you're their child, and about how terrible you are, so that they can build a team. So that if any mess goes down, they have a whole team of people to validate their reality. So if it's their child, they'll be consistently complaining to these other people about what a terrible child, you are. If it's in a relationship, they'll exaggerate any wrongdoing. They'll make it seem like they are suffering you and that you are abusive. Projection, right? You're emotionally abusive, you're this, that, and the third. So that if anything ever goes down or there's a big argument, they have an entire team of people to validate their reality, which they need, right? They make threats, they manipulate, and lots of wandering eye. But this tends to be a bit of a punishment again. This is though I don't know why I'm only thinking sexually in a romantic sense, but they'll want sex, but then when it's done in a punishment way, they'll put spins on it to where they know the person won't be down for it. Okay. So they'll ask for something really wild, crazy, painful, whatever. And when their partner says no, then they'll be like, it's like socks. If I want a pair of socks and I go to the drawer, there's no socks there, then I'm going to go buy some socks, meaning, right? If you don't give it to me, I'm going to go find somebody who will give it to me. Right. Or they're mad at you. So you're on a walk and every time they see somebody of the opposite sex, they make it really known that they're staring, they're looking, they're watching. They may even try to talk to somebody in front of you. It's a form of punishment. Okay. Stonewalling, it's that stubbornness, unwilling to come off a point. This is it, and you can't teach them anything or give them a different perspective. It's a stonewall. They keep a lot of secrets. They're very secretive. very private, um, usually because they're manipulating things behind the scenes, right? And they can't get caught doing that. So they'll have entire friends that you've never met, never seen, that they only tell you about, but you've never met them. And of course, eventually you understand that you can't trust anything they tell you about these other people because of how they talk about you behind your back. Um, you know, moving the phone all the time, won't show you things, everything is a secret. Even social media, because that's very much ego, right? Social media is ego. That's where we display our egos. So the narcissist social media presence has to be immaculate, right? It has to be perfection. Narcissists tend to they'll get really mad if somebody posts up a picture of them that's not it has to be perfect. Now, some of us have had friends who have posted things up and we're like, dude, like, this is a terrible angle. I look horrible. Why? I have, my mouth is hanging open and I have broccoli in my teeth. What are you even doing? That's not narcissistic. Okay. They'll do the cold shoulder, become very cold, calculating, just turn it off. Usually is a way to manipulate your behavior. And they will do a lot of rewriting of the history of the relationship, how you met, how it went, who was the first, all of that. Because again, in real time, they're having to rewrite everything to make them the center of the story. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Okay. So it's time to break up. You're in a narcissistic relationship, or you're in a relationship with somebody with narcissistic traits, or you're in a relationship with someone who is a diagnosed narcissist. Time to break up. So how do we even do that? Okay. You have to be careful, because here's the thing. They've been team building, and as soon as you try to break up, they're going to increase their team. Now, okay, I'm going to get to that. Okay, so be prepared, right? Be prepared, make a plan. They may try to love bomb you, like, oh, I'm going to go to therapy and you were right all along and I was wrong. And it's like they do all the things that you've been asking them to do for the last 6, 8, 12 months. When you break up with them, they buy you that gift, they do that thing, right? If you're getting a divorce, they will immediately start trying to figure out how to like game the system, right? Stay calm, cool, businesslike. Okay. They may show no remorse and act cruel and work on team building people against you. Now, in this scenario, when you're trying to break up with a narcissist, the people that they try to get on their team is your support system. They will immediately contact your support system to set the narrative ahead of time, to garner sympathy, to get these people to come to their side, to be against you. So it does two things. It increases their team, but it also takes away your support system. So they generally will start with the person that you are closest to and try to get everybody on their team. So if you've been in relationship with a narcissist and you guys have broken up, you will find that you may have some previous friends or some family members who are now buddies with your ex, and you don't have anything to do with them. That's the team building, right? The thing about them, their reactions, people with narcissistic traits will always take it to the next level. As soon as you think they can't get any worse or they can't love bomb you anymore, they will. Okay. Because there has to be a punishment. Remember how I said that earlier? There has to be a punishment. You have to be wrong and they have to be right. So they're not going to quit until they're satisfied, or they've replaced you. Now, that's not a clear line there because they can replace you as a source for them to use and still be hyper focused on punishing you. It can still happen. I don't know how their new people ever are okay with that. If I was with somebody and they were hyper focused on punishing their ex, I would be like, you are so not over them. I'm out. Leon says, you pack all your stuff up and leave, but before leave her a letter. I mean, yeah, you could do that. I tell people all the time, because you will have very empathetic people who are in relationship with somebody who has narcissistic traits or tendencies. And the empathetic person is trying to do everything right. Like, well, I need to break up with them face to face because that's appropriate. And, I need to make it private so that it doesn't embarrass them. I need to maintain their dignity. That's the right thing to do. And I always say, you don't have to do the right thing in these situations, right? Because these people don't have an appropriate moral contract with you, right? So you do what's best for you in the breakup, right? Text them. You know what I mean? All this stuff's going to happen regardless, whether you leave a letter, you tell them face to face, if you tell them face to face in private, you're probably putting yourself in danger of being hit. So, think about those kind of things, right? Adric says, be lucky to be replaced. It's freedom. As long as they decide they don't need to punish you and they're not hyper-focused on you anymore. When you cease to exist, you're dead to them. People actually say that, even about their own children. They're dead to me. That is when you're kind of lucky. You're like, okay, good. I'm off your radar, right? So, all right, notify your support system. Avoid cannon fodder, meaning anytime you get emotional, they're going to use it against you, whether that's angry, sad, happy. If you show emotion or give them too much detail, they will use it against you. Again, they are at war now. They're at war. Nobody breaks up with me. They're at war, right? Boundaries. Let me see how much I've got in here. Yeah. Prioritize yourself and then lose it, unfortunately. So the be prepared and make a plan, right? Organize your plans before doing anything. Keep copies of important documents. Again, they want to punish you, so they may burn your stuff, burn your documents, burn your clothes, tear up your stuff, bash in your car windows, right? They're at war and you're going to be punished, right? Aim to stay calm, cool, businesslike. I always tell people, like, to avoid cannon fodder, 2 things. Stay businesslike and do not respond unless a question is asked, because they are button pushing, right? So they will button push. They'll call you everything. They'll say stuff about your mother, to get a rise out of you, right? They want the emotional response. But unless they ask a specific question that's a real question, not a rhetorical question, don't respond. Okay. And only while you're going through the breaking up process. Once things are settled, you don't respond at all. Stay connected to a support system. That's really, really, really important. Avoid bad mouthing them to others. Again, it'll get back to them and they will use it against you. And especially if you're going through a divorce, you don't want anything to end up in court that makes you look like you're the one who's doing wackadoo stuff. Set and keep your boundaries. It's hard, right? Because they know you well, especially if it's a parent, and they know how to get around your boundaries. So set some boundaries and keep them, or cut them off completely. Go through a third party. Okay. And prioritize taking care of yourself. Okay. It's over. The boundaries are set. Now what? Okay. So now I'm going to curse because there's no better way to say this. Now you lose your shit. And it's unfortunate. It's that when you're done with them, when you're finally done with them, um, that's when it's like everything that you've been through with them catches up with you. So you kind of lose it. It's like you're in shock. So think about like people who are in shock. They don't have access to their higher level thinking, problem solving. Um, they feel disjointed, weird, surreal, that kind of thing. It's you are in a little bit of shock. And so you're going to lose your shit a little bit, right? Um, you have spent, I have to put on chapstick. Okay. You have spent extended periods of time, right? Be it your whole childhood, the entirety of your relationship, whatever, in a high anxiety, hyper focused, high stress situation. That's a long time to be like halfway into survival mode. Like we got one foot in survival mode throughout the entirety of the relationship because you never know, right? Like reality changes, you never know what's going to happen, you never know how they are, right? If abuse was happening, to some extent, I would say if you're in relationship with somebody with narcissistic traits, then there's at least some emotional abuse happening. But I will say if abuse was happening, then you had more than one foot in survival mode. Okay. You had both feet, especially if it's physical or sexual abuse, you had both feet in survival mode, which means soon as survival mode turns off, it all comes to the surface. It has to come out. It can't just stay in your body. And it's not going to. Sorry, guys. It's all going to come out. You, you have to remember, and this is difficult, especially for men. I'm sorry, guys, but this is hard. A person victimized you, right? Like they used you. They victimize you. And like you probably don't want to see yourself as like a victim, right? But don't deny the whole thing or dismiss it or not seem like a big deal to get away from being seen as a victim because you're also removing their accountability, right? If you're not honest and upfront with yourself and with your support system about how they victimized you and what it did to you, then you're changing reality and making them not so bad. So I know it's difficult, but you have to be authentic and honest about what went on and what it did to you, right? Give yourself a lot of time. You have to give yourself a lot of time after that because there's a lot that's got to come out. Kind of like we talked about when you have a narcissistic parent, your entire worldview is based on that behavior. And so you've got to let it come up, have the feelings, feel the feelings, don't shove them down, right? Compartmentalizing big feelings is like shaking a can of pop. Eventually it's going to explode all over you and everybody you're closest to, right? That's how, because when you compartmentalize things, I conceptualize it like moving boxes. And so you're shoving all this stuff into moving boxes and you're putting it in the farthest resources of your mind. Well, the ick that you put in there is wet and sticky and it leaks. So if you compartmentalize, which men are taught to do, because they're not allowed to have feelings societally, they've got a bunch of leaky boxes. And that the ick is probably flammable. So at some point, something's going to ignite and it's all going to come out and blow up. So as you're healing from a narcissistic relationship, men or women, you have to give yourself time. Don't try to escape from it. Don't compartmentalize it. Don't be dismissive of it. Feel it. Go through it. You know, go through it. It's going to be bad, but you'll be glad that you did. Okay. Adrix says detox. Yeah, the emotions come out of the pores. We'll have to have a conversation about that sometime about our sweat and our tears and things like that. Very dependent upon our emotions. So there's some science behind that. Yeah. So when I say take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, everything, right? Go to the spa, right? Go work out, drink lots of water, right? Do all the things that are healthy to physically, mentally, and emotionally get it out of you. Cry, yell, be angry, okay? It takes time. And it's not just you're going to cry and be angry and maybe break something one time and then it's done, right? Because all this stuff is coming up. So you have to be sure you've worked through all of it and felt those feelings. So you'll need a support system, somebody you can talk to, a therapist, a doctor, a treatment provider, someone, where who isn't going to get annoyed that you keep talking about it. Okay. so that you can keep talking about it and work through those feelings. So I said surreal, things may seem surreal. So you may feel like you don't know what's real, or more likely you'll feel like you don't know who you are anymore. Or again, if it's this childhood, you don't know who you are at all, right? Because you've had to be so hyper focused on the person with the narcissistic traits that you sort of lost yourself. Like you always want to keep them calm and keep them okay and not set them off. And so you do those things rather than thinking about what you want and what you think and what you need. So then you come out of the relationship and you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Okay. Now, there is a healthy narcissistic relationship, by the way. I'm just going to interject that here. And it's when you have an infant. If you guys have had toddlers, you know what I'm talking about. This is a relationship where you have to be hyper focused on somebody else and constantly knowing what they like, what they don't like, and always right there for them, right? That's why we empathetically have the ability to do that for people, is because we biologically can parent, right? Men and women alike. All right. So as you're working through all these feelings, you don't even know who you are anymore. Just understand it will come back. You will figure it out. You have to rebuild your sense of self, because you've gotten to the point where your sense of self has a picture of them in the middle, because you've had to stay hyper focused on them. So as you work through the pain and you're giving yourself time and grace, the process is already happening where you're rebuilding your sense of self, your own identity. Okay. Hi, Joes. Thanks for being here. You're coming out of a situation where you spent way too much time watching what you say, like muting yourself and anticipating every and all scenarios, right? To make sure everything was going to be okay with them. So you weren't a member of the relationship. So using the name Fred again, it was like you were in Fred's relationship, or if it's a woman, you were in Faith's relationship, right? This wasn't a relationship between two people. That's their relationship, and you were there to help them. Okay. So let's talk about some tips. Tips are important. Leon says that his 2.5-year-old son is a narcissist, right? Because they don't have a sense of self, they don't have full ego development, and they're very needy and emotionally manipulative. But all of that is healthy, right? So that shows the process by which a narcissist can get to us, and why they are so attracted to really empathetic people, because we can understand what they've been through. And we don't want to hurt people, and so we're great to be used, and we tend to have this never-ending well of being able to give to them, even when they don't give to us. Okay, so when the relationship ends, I cannot say it enough, grant yourself some grace. However you're handling it, handle it. I don't care. I don't care. You cry every 5 minutes and you feel embarrassed, so you just went through some shit. I don't care. Give yourself some grace. If you lost your temper and kicked your door, okay, give yourself some grace. If you literally just want to sit in your house on your couch eating takeout and you haven't showered in 3 days and you can't stop staring at the wall, whatever. You're going through it. It'll be fine. Whatever happens, as long as you're not hurting other people, you can fix later once all the emotions are out and you're rebuilding your sense of self. Then you can fix whatever needs to be fixed, or just say, screw it, I don't care. I was going through it. Right? Emotion regulation. Okay. Learn some calming techniques. Like, what are the things that you like to do that helps you calm down? It could be something as simple as taking some deep breaths, which the reason that it works is because oxygen has calming properties in it, right? So the more you take deep breaths, the more oxygen you have in your system, and it actually chemically helps you to calm down. But it also gives you something else to focus on if you're thinking about the breathing, right? Or spending time with certain people, or going for a walk, or getting some sunshine, or having something cold to drink. Just anything that helps you to calm down, get some of those. Coping techniques. So we need coping techniques when there are situations that we can't change, which I will say, like if there is a divorce, right? That you're going to be going back and forth, and the lawyers are going to be fighting, and they're not going to give in because they want to win. And anytime something's brought up, and then they're trying to use the kids against you, and there's nothing you can do. Calming down doesn't change that scenario at all. We learn coping techniques with how to get through something that we can't change step by step. How do we cope? Is this where we use our support system, where we can call and be like, this so and such, and they did this, right? Vent it out, and that helps us to cope. Coping mechanisms is where we can tend to get in trouble, because that's where addictions can come in. Maybe we're drinking a little too much, or we're taking some more substances, or smoking substances, or eating too much food, or trying to escape our life by sleeping with everything around you, being hyper focused on trying to find another person to fill the void. So we got to find appropriate coping techniques. We need some self-soothing techniques. It's a little bit different than calming, okay? Self-soothing should have, in a healthy relationship, self-soothing would come from our parents. This is something that we as adult humans do instinctively, okay? This is why, like, babies crying, pick it up, right? We have body closeness, connection, bonding. We'll rub backs, pat backs, bounce them, give them their bottle to soothe what's bothering them. So calming techniques are when our emotions are getting a little too high. We need to calm down. Self-soothing is when our emotions are getting a little too low, and we need to soothe ourselves to feel a little better, to get a little hope, to feel like it's gonna be okay. It's also why we say that to babies, right? Babies don't know English. 3-month-old doesn't know English. We're like, it's okay, it's okay, right? Calm down, it's not so bad, right? We literally instinctively teach this to our babies. But the reason I say should is because not everybody came from healthy parentage. And we had parents who their love was very much conditional, or they were neglected, or their parents never showed them affection. So maybe as an adult, you got to take responsibility for that and create, and find some self-soothing techniques. Sidebar, because I said it, it's not your fault what these people did to you. Okay. It is not your fault. The unfortunate reality of the situation is it's now your responsibility to take care of it as far as yourself. Any and all ways that it affect you, it is your responsibility, right? If we just hang out in the victimhood mentality, and take it out on our next partner, or make people live up to unrealistic expectations, or constantly trying to be the victim in our relationships, or whatever, comes out as anger, comes out as being closed off, being too private, never letting people in, not feeling connected enough, those kind of things, that's your responsibility to fix. It's unfair because it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. It's your responsibility. Anything that happens to you, good or bad, is now yours. It's your responsibility. Focus on others for good, right? Sometimes when we want to escape a little bit, because we just need a break from the mental that's going on as we're going through this, focus on others for good, right? Like through a charity, or find a cause, or find somebody who needs help, or maybe you have a friend that's been trying to get their oil changed and they don't know how to do it, or they're going to need help, or maybe you have ramps and they don't. Go help them out. Focus on helping somebody in some way. Okay. That's a good form of escapism. Focus on self-compassion instead of self-criticism. This is that grace thing, right? Show yourself some compassion. It's not your fault. You didn't ask nor wanted to be treated that way. Again, your responsibility. Okay. Accept that it happened. Don't try to be dismissive of it. Don't try to just be like, whatever, she's this or he's that. Accept that it happened. Somebody treated you really crappy. Pretending it didn't happen, it wasn't that bad, or totally ignoring it just prolongs the healing process, right? You're just shaking the pop in the head, or waiting for something to ignite. You will bring it into your next relationship if you don't go through it. You will. No matter how much you try to not, you will. So get it taken care of, okay? Spend some time in nature. There is a lot of science behind that. Being outside in nature decreases anxiety, improves mood, and can clear brain fog. So if you're not thinking well, you can't think right, your problem solving is off, you're not remembering stuff, you can't remember appointment times, whatever, that's brain fog. Okay. So go outside, right? Get in some sunshine and some fresh air, and go on a walk, or go sit at the park, something, right? Just be in nature. Clean out your environmental spaces. Organize, clean, rearrange furniture, feng shui that thing, get all the negative energy out, you have a lot of memories in the space that you're in, right? Because you were in relationship with somebody. So in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have memories of that person in the space you're in. And so cleaning it out or, redecorating, organizing, getting rid of their stuff or the things that they wanted to put up that you always thought was ugly, it actually decreases depression when we are in a clean, organized environment. So, on top of all those things, the memories, it's just going to make you feel better. Sometimes, though, we don't have we're down, we're depressed, we're going through it. It's hard to get that energy. But if you get the energy, do that. Make sure you're doing things for you, right? From daily grooming and hygiene, and if that's all you accomplish in a day, good on you. You're going through it. Again, grace. All you managed to do was to take a shower and put on clothes, clean clothes, and brush your teeth. Man, that's a lot. If you've ever been going through it, you know how much energy some days it takes to take the shower, put on clean clothes, brush your teeth. Like sometimes that's what you can manage and you're back to the couch. It's okay. But doing something for you, like a fun activity, especially if it's something that the other person didn't like or never wanted to do or thought was stupid, go do it. Go do it. Have a blast. Try something new. Try something different, right? Address the shame in the room, right? Because we're gonna have the tendency to want to beat ourselves up a little bit. Okay. So when we address the shame in the room, you have to acknowledge you stayed with someone for an extended period of time who was disrespectful to you. And maybe you never stood up for yourself or only partially, or you maybe never said anything, or you let them get away with it, but just to not fight. Maybe you were conflict avoidant, whatever. So you feel kind of dumb and played, right? You probably bent your value system for them. You have specific values that's part of what you believe. And because of avoiding that conflict or trying to smooth things over, you bent your value system for them, or maybe even broke it, right? Hi, Toya. Yes, you get a late pass. If they were abusive and they were at least emotionally abusive, you also stayed with somebody who abused you. So you can feel some shame about that, right? Like I should have left him here. I should have left him there. I feel so stupid. I'm so dumb. Why did I stay with them? You probably, if you were with somebody with narcissistic tendencies, you probably cut off some friends and family for them. So acknowledge you did it, because they don't like your support system and they want to cut you off from them. So it probably happened. You probably rationalized and made excuses for their behavior to other people and stood up for them. So you have to address those things that you're feeling shameful about. But at the end of the day, they made you feel that way. They manipulated you into doing those things. So again, the blame has to consistently be put on them. It's just your responsibility to fix it, right? So address, yeah, I feel bad. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. And keep it moving. At the end of the day, it's their game. This is their game. They didn't go to school for it, but part of the symptomology of narcissism makes them experts at manipulation. They may not even be that smart, but they may be average intelligence, but they are experts at manipulation. They instinctually know how to do it, and they create trauma bonds. This is what they do, right? They want you reliant on them. They make us conditioned. So a trauma bond. They condition our behavior to crave the relief after negative things happen. So we want the good times so bad that we change everything to make everything okay for them, regardless of what we want. And then we also need, we are fiending like an addict, for the relief of the argument's over, the fight is done, they've moved on to the next thing, they're over it, silent treatment's ended. They've conditioned us to that, to need and crave the relief part. Okay. It's done through this like intermittent reinforcement, power dynamics, and codependency. They need to be needed, so they make you need them. That's codependency. There's neuroscience in it too, if anybody's interested. We high stress. So when you have a high stress life, it raises your cortisol. Okay. When the relationship ends, right? So this is where you go into shock. So the relationship ends, the cortisol goes down, but it throws dopamine and oxytocin out of balance, right? The oxytocin and the dopamine is what we got from the relief, right? That's how we get addicted to it, right? So when the relationship is over, cortisol levels are fluctuating, dopamine and oxytocin are fluctuating. This will actually make some people sometimes crave the person that they just broke up with. It will make them nostalgic. It'll make them want them again. Again, it's similar to an addiction. We've been conditioned to it. So we will have cravings while we're withdrawing from the relief and the good times. That's why nostalgically, that's what we think of. Okay. All right. Define your boundaries, what's okay, what's not okay, and only flex them if you want to, not for other people. Leon says, nope, that never happened. Now I have friends whose husbands or wives did that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once you see it, and hopefully now you all do, you can never not see it. Okay. Define and refine your inner circle, the people closest to you, like your inner support system. Make sure you know who those people are, refine it if necessary, right? Because you need the strength of the people who are closest to you and love you. And again, give yourself some grace, quit beating yourself up, give yourself some time, and you will get through it as long as you go through it. All right. Whew. I told you guys it was going to be a lot, and it's more than an hour. I do not want to do. Okay, let me take this down here real quick. No. Okay. So coming up, Adric says, you got to believe that one day you can revisit these tips in video and enjoy your progress. I like that. That's, I was asked to make this video about like, how do you get over that? How do you heal from that? It being with somebody with narcissistic traits. And so I wanted to do this, but you're right. Somebody who's going through it now or is getting ready to go through it, this video may be actually something that could be helpful. And then also people can track their progress and remind themselves to stop being ashamed of the stuff you did, quit beating yourself up, give yourself some grace and some time. Coming up, I have actually a lot of videos scheduled. So this coming Shadow Work Wednesday, for those of you who do Shadow Work Wednesday, we are going to talk about the element of irreducible rascality by a metaphysical philosopher named Alan Watts. So that one's called You Rascal. We're all going to find our own inner rascals, which always makes me think of Bugs Bunny, right? The wascally wabbit. Then next Sunday is when we're going to talk about those weaponized words of toxic and low vibration or low vibrational. We're going to talk about what is actually toxic and low vibrational using the Spain scale of emotion and Hawkins map of consciousness. So that's going to be next Sunday. And then the following Wednesday, Told you I have a lot scheduled. The following Shadow Work Wednesday, so not this coming, but the next one. That one is called I Want To, but I Can't. Manual can't. Play on words. Anyway, we're going to talk about his moral imperative, and that in our modern Western society, it is always, often, if not always, ignored. But that it would actually change mankind, starting with you. And it's something that we can all do. So we're going to talk about Kant's moral imperative on the second Wednesday from now. All right. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you for sticking with me. Shout out to the replay gang for watching. And I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Bye.